Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily. Coming up, the Lakers lost to the Warriors in a big pivotal matchup for playoff seeding. So Jovan Buha is here to hang out and talk about it. And I sat down with Marcus Thompson to talk about Draymond Green's chances at winning Defensive Player of the Year. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Actually, good night, Jovan. Appreciate you hanging out post-game. The Lakers, they lose to the visiting Warriors. It is not the game that the Lakers wanted to have. I'm sure they definitely wanted to win this one. They're 5-5 in their last 10, kind of scuffling a little bit. The Warriors are ascending and actually now have a chance to really pass them in the standings by the time it's all said and done. What's your big takeaway from the night for the Lakers? A lot of Warriors talk is going to be out there, the defense that they played. But for the Lakers, what'd you think about them?
I think this is the blueprint of how you want to attack the Lakers in the playoffs. I think defensively, you want to switch a lot. They have really struggled since the Luka trade with their offense against switch-heavy teams. They tend to mismatch hunt, and on nights when their jumper is falling, which it actually, especially late in the game as they were trying to make that comeback, it started to fall. But for the most part, it was not falling for the first three quarters. They can stagnate and they can settle for contested jumpers. Tonight, they really struggled to get downhill. And then once they did, I thought Golden State was very effective with their paint defense. But for the Lakers, it was a lot of just side-to-side movements and actions rather than getting downhill and creating advantages. And I thought they did a good job early. They were posting up with Rui and LeBron and able to find some skip passes to the weak side corner, got some offensive rebounds. Actually had 8 offensive rebounds through the first quarter. And then from that point on, were not as effective. So I think from an offense perspective, you saw Golden State's defense really stymie them. And then when the Lakers are on defense, you got to attack them in transition. Gotcha. You got to be, whether it's after makes or turnovers, you have to hit them in transition. That remains arguably their weakest area defensively, is that especially when you have a certain level of speed and athleticism, you can really attack them with early offense and transition offense. I thought Golden State did a great job of doing that, but then also within their half-court sets, because of the movement, because of the speed and athleticism, they were really able to capitalize on LA having to try to protect Luka defensively and just some of their shortcomings on that end. So I think Golden State, this is our first time seeing Luka versus the Warriors with the Lakers and Jimmy versus the Lakers with the Warriors, and certainly some concerns on the Lakers side.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say this is the Lakers kind of looked flat, and they haven't done that a lot since Luka's been there, especially when Luka and LeBron are on the court. But more than that, Luka looked kind of flat. I'm not sure if you felt like it was the defensive game plan that threw him off. Do you feel like they got him worn out? But even in that comeback stretch, starting around the 5-minute mark of the fourth quarter, when things started rolling for the Lakers and Austin Reaves really was cooking, it seemed like every time Luka touched the ball, it just took the energy out of the possession a little bit. And that's a little weird to see with him in a Laker uniform.
Yeah, I would say that outside of the first couple games when he was still just feeling out the group, this was his worst game as a Laker. After the game, we just spoke with him, and he said his performance was unacceptable, and he took blame and ownership for his performance tonight and just said that he has to be better, and he felt like he let his teammates down tonight with the way that he played, and especially offensively that he should have been better. So I think it was a combination of Golden State's size and athleticism on the perimeter, and I thought they tried to target Quinton Post at various points. Luka, Austin, and LeBron, and Austin had some success against him, but they were basically not able to get by him. And I think that was a bit concerning. And then defensively, I actually think people are going to look at the point total and the 6 for 17 shooting. I think defensively what was more concerning for Luka tonight, where he was just relentlessly targeted by Steph and by the Warriors offense. And the Lakers started to try to hide him on Kevon Looney and Draymond and whoever was the non-threat as a roller or as a score that you wanted to involve in the action. and it didn't matter. They would just run decoy actions to get Luka switched on to someone else, and then they would bring that guy into the fray. So the Lakers, I think, are going to have to figure that out, because Steph is not the only apex superstar in the West that they're going to face that's going to try to target Luka. So they're going to have to come up with a better defensive strategy than just switching everything, because as we saw, when you switch everything, you can pick your matchups, and Golden State was picking on Luka tonight.
And if you want an idea just from the box score, I mean, Steph Curry shot 14 free throws. That is just so far above what you normally see from him. And it was because he was just attacking. I mean, there was one time that I remember right off the top of my head. I mean, Luka didn't even make any contact on the drive at all. And Steph just sets him up and goes right by him for a layup. They're going to need more effort than that out of Luka. But a guy that I thought was great, I mean, Austin Reaves down the stretch, he just seemed to hit every big shot that they needed. This continues the trend for him. I mean, he's, like we talked about previously, he might be the best third banana in the league, which seems like a crazy statement if you're talking 6 months ago. But now with what we've seen, I mean, heading into the playoffs for this team, I mean, like, how do they, I guess, maximize this kind of, I would say, the two playmakers and then the play finisher with LeBron, where you've got Austin Reaves and Luka? I mean, is there any more they can do to kind of tap a little bit of extra offense out of it?
It's going to be interesting to see how that breaks down, because in recent games, Austin has been their best closer and their best shot creator. And they've run a lot of Austin LeBron two-man game. And that's a little bit easier for them to get into rather than LeBron Luka, just because with LeBron and Luka, it's typically like-sized defenders. So they're just going to switch that. But with Austin and LeBron, it's often not like-sized defenders. So they have a decision to make of, they could either try to trap, and then you got the short roll playmaking and the 4-on-3 advantage, or they can't switch that. Then either LeBron has a smaller defender on him and Austin has a bigger, slower defender on him. So the Austin LeBron two-man game has been more of their bread and butter in late game situations outside of just Luka being Luka. So I think they're still figuring out that balance. But in terms of like when the ball is in one of those three players' hands, the guy that they've actually looked the best with recently has been Austin in these late game situations. We saw it in the Chicago game. We saw it in various points of the Indiana game. So of course, like, he is third in the pecking order. So I want to be clear with that. But LeBron and Luka, I think if anything, like, you could look for ways to play those guys off of him, rather than vice versa. But the one thing though is if someone is going to be off the ball, like, I think LeBron's actually the best catch and shoot guy among these three. So because of LeBron's versatility, I think he's going to have the ball in his hands the least among the three. But he also is the guy who can create advantages in the post and just with his size and his strength. So they're still figuring out this crunch time offense and what it's going to look like. It's been interesting to see, like, they've largely been better defensively throughout this stretch, as we've talked about before, than offensively. And I think it's starting to click. That Memphis game, all three guys had 25 plus points, 8+ assists. That was as great as they've looked offensively, but that's not a nightly thing, and they're still working through that.
I mean, look, down the stretch of the game last night, every single time the ball didn't go to Austin Reaves, I thought it was a mistake. He just gets into what they want to do so fast. I mean, you mentioned the pace. I think Austin Reaves kind of drives their half-court pace, where he gets the ball and he's getting into creating a shot or getting a look or just moving the ball. And I think that's hugely important. I don't want to not talk about LeBron and Steph, because it's kind of insane. So Steph Curry's 37, put up 37 points. LeBron is, 40, as we've talked about ad nauseum, puts up 33. We've been watching this forever at this point. What happened in the game last night that maybe you haven't seen between these two before?
Well, I think you mentioned Steph's ability to get to the free throw line, and I thought he did a masterful job of that. I think it was kind of like a throwback where LeBron was really targeting Steph down the stretch and trying to get him switched on to him in the post, and LeBron was going back to the bully ball days. But I would say for the Lakers Warriors matchups, this felt like the most firepower Steph has had on his side. And I think in recent years, the Lakers have tended to fare, well in this matchup. That they won in 2023, and then even this season they won the season series 3-1. But I think LA really missed Anthony Davis tonight. That's actually something now that we're talking this out. I think AD was a guy that the late, like in this matchup in particular, for as great as Draymond is defensively, AD still got 4 inches on him and another 20 pounds or so, and just was one of the few guys that Draymond could struggle to defend in the post. And with the offensive rebounds and the pick and roll game, like he just brought a certain level of physicality to their offense and a paint presence that they just did not have tonight last night consistently. So I think that was something, but it felt like for the first time in this matchup, at least over the last few years, Steph had just as much firepower on his side with Podziemski and Kuminga, Butler, Moody. Like they had all these guys that could match the Lakers offensively. Whereas the last few years, it has felt more LA's had more weapons offensively, in my opinion.
Before we go to the break, I do want to mention Draymond Green. I talked to Marcus after the break extensively about it because he wrote a big piece on him. But, this was kind of a quintessential Draymond Green game. And I think if he was making a case, which he actually publicly is making a case for Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, this is a great game for that. He makes what was essentially the game sealing steal there on Luka toward the end. But he was blowing up plays all night. What's it like to watch a guy like that? This Lakers team as well as anybody, but I think Draymond Green knows the Lakers better than you do, and maybe even better than they know themselves sometimes.
He's incredible. I'm fortunate enough to have a vote this year, and I'm going to strongly consider voting for him for Defensive Player of the Year. He's certainly going to be on my ballot, but just where he ends up, still have to make that decision and go through all the film and the numbers and whatnot. But he's like the one thing I would also take away from tonight was earlier in the season, the Lakers kind of came into their small ball identity against the Warriors. There was that Christmas Day game where Austin, they were running a lot of screening actions with Austin, and he was attacking Golden State the short roll. And like from that point on, they make the DFS trade. They start to build that up. And then they play the Warriors 3 times over the span of a month. And it felt like the Lakers, from a small ball perspective, were actually able to match, if not outplay the Warriors. And then again, AD was a part of that. But tonight, it just felt like Golden State was controlling everything. And obviously the driving force defensively was Draymond, and just his ability to also offensively, he attacked the Lakers a bit in that third. He got hot. He hit a couple threes. He got to the rim.
Hit a 3 with Steph standing wide open right next to him.
but defensively, he was guarding LeBron a lot and switching and doing Draymond things. And I think he really did a good job of protecting the defensive glass, protecting the rim. And it was a big part of why LA was forced to take so many uncharacteristic mid-range jumpers, because this is not a mid-range heavy team. JJ Redick has basically outlawed it as an analytics-friendly coach. He does not want them taking mid-range jumpers. Tonight they took a bunch of them, and that was largely because of Draymond and his defense.
Yeah, it was perfect timing there with the crowd in the background laughing about the mid-range jumpers. I really appreciated that touch. Thank you, Jovan, for hanging out and doing the show. Guys, stick around after the break. I promise this show is not sponsored by Draymond Green's podcast or anything like that, but me and Marcus Thompson get a little bit nerdy. We start talking about Kevin Garnett when we're talking about Draymond Green, so stick around for that. Draymond Green is making a case for Defensive Player of the Year, whether that's on the court, off the court, in the studio, on a podcast, after the game. I mean, it feels like I'm hearing a lot about Draymond Green as Defensive Player of the Year, including a nice little breakdown on the way that Draymond thinks by our guy, Marcus Thompson, over at The Athletic. Marcus, before we talk about Draymond, I just got to say, this was one of my favorite pieces that I've read all year. If you're listening to this, I'm going to link it in the show notes. I don't just think that this is like a must read. Like it is literally, you have to read it if you are a basketball fan. I loved the insight that you were able to get from Draymond, who I consider to be the greatest defender of his generation. Man, I haven't seen anybody get that out of a player ever. So first of all, thank you for doing that. I loved seeing someone highlighting and almost talk about defense like they're in love with it. Because that's my favorite thing about coaching basketball. So it was really nice to see. So thank you for that. But how did you get the idea to go and sit down with Draymond and break down tape? Because it doesn't seem like Draymond would really want to do that unless he was on TV.
To be honest, like I've been wanting to do this for years. I mean, at least 4 or 5 years. But it's that reason as a print writer, it's just harder to execute, right? Like, hey, tell me you're going to do this thing. Tell me how you do this thing, and I'm going to put it in words. Like, it's not really the medium for that. So to me, that was always the hard part. And then he did it with Doris Burke once during the finals. And then I gave the Warriors PR guys and, like, come on, man, I've been asking for that So the difficulty was trying to figure out a way to translate this thing into a writing format, which is, how I got the video idea of just like, hey, play the screen and have him talking over the video and explaining it. So, yeah, I've always wanted to I want to do that about like so much, like about so many things. Like I really want to do one on pick and roll, right?
Yeah.
Like this, like
you
foundational
get Mark Price
play.
for that, though.
Yeah, I'm saying, I would love to do that, but Draymond, he likes talking about defense, and I do feel like even though it wasn't really a TV setting, like he knows I pay enough attention that if I ask him the right question,
right,
he'll have the right answer. All you gotta do is talk to him in his language. Essentially, he's always down to talk about it, but you just gotta know like what to ask. Essentially.
Yeah, I love the layout because in the article we've got the clips. And then exactly what Draymond was thinking during the play. He kind of laid that out. So, this is like a roundabout way of talking about Draymond as a defender. He's 35 years old. He should not be able, at his size, to be able to still make the impact that he does every single game. I'm not sure. Like, there's certainly an IQ aspect to this, but there's a physical aspect to this too. And I think I probably put myself into camp that didn't expect Draymond to age as well. But he has incredibly, and his brain is keeping him at the top of his game. Is this the smartest version of Draymond Green that you've ever seen? Or have you seen him even more locked in than this?
Nah, this is the smartest, mostly because he doesn't have all of these great defenders around him. Right. Like that's to me the impressive thing. Like when they were winning championships, right? He had Andrew Bogut, he had Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston, right? Like he had KD, like
Pete Clay, he had defensively.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Pete Clay guard, like hounding the point guard. They had these pieces. Now he's working with guys like Moses Moody and Brandon Pajemski and no real center, right? Because they don't really play him with Kevon Looney, who's a really good, inside defender for a guy who's 6'9". Yeah. He doesn't have a 7-footer next to him or a natural rim protector. So to me, this is like, I mean, I'm with you, man. Like, let's do this. If you go watch old Draymond, he was so fast.
Right.
Like it was running around and so physical and explosive in his kind of way. I don't like, he never was jumping out of the gym, but there was just a veracity about him. So when you watch him, like 2016 Draymond, when you watch him, you could see the difference physically. So that's my thing. Like, yo, how are you doing this? It's akin to like you going out playing with some youngsters, right? And they clearly have the athletic advantage, but you are so far ahead of them, like intellectually of the game. Like it makes it hard for them to beat you. So he's still got a lot of juice left. I think he's such a master at wielding his length, his 7'2" wingspan, and he's still really strong. And as far as like centers go, he's very agile. It's not like he's old and beat down. He's just no longer he was a small forward playing center. Those days, it was like now he's a power forward playing center, right? That's a big difference. But it's upstairs, and it's like this. It's a combination of his intellectual capacity. Because he said, I don't know when you listen to it, one of the things that blew me away is I expected to sit down with a scientist and he's going to say some stuff I didn't understand. I
Right.
understood everything he said. It actually sounded pretty basic. And what he says, he doesn't think players, obviously he thinks they're dumb players in the league, but he doesn't think most players are dumb. He thinks the difference is it's not that you don't know what to do, it's how fast you process it. How fast in the moment can you process these 7 things that are happening and make a decision? He's like, that's the difference. And I understood that having him explain some very simple things, but he's just processing like 7 of them at the same time on the fly and making decisions. Like that's the difference. And that to me is like, it's like a CPU that's just advanced.
Right. Well, so the concept of 0.5, like 0.5 second decision making in basketball at this point, like I think everyone knows it. We don't think as much about it on the defensive end because it's you're reacting, right? So the offense has a natural advantage because they're the one doing the action. But with Draymond, it almost feels like he's already kind of pre-chosen the path you're going to choose. He knows where to be. He's one of the first guys, I mean, essentially invented the scram switch, which is the switch where you see the opposing team gets a mismatch on your small. It usually happens with Steph Curry. So as the inbound pass is happening, Draymond cuts across the lane and essentially, hey, let me take that spot. And then Steph hustles out. I mean, he essentially started doing that. And I'm not sure if that was a coaching decision or if that's just Draymond being Draymond and knowing where to be all the time. But I don't know that there's a single player in the modern era that has gotten more out of his functional length than Draymond. You know, you think about that wingspan, right? Like he plays like, you could call him a small forward, but he's got arms like a center. And he uses his body in that way. And so he really is just this unique physical player, as well as just having the brain. It's a little bit like KG. You know, like if I was saying KG was the greatest defender of his generation, I think Draymond took the mantle for his. I mean, is that a pretty good comp, or is there somebody historically that you would compare him to?
No, I do like the KG, and I think you can't go too far back because if the separator for the likes of KG and Draymond is they get out on a point guard, right? Like you just have to be able to do that. In this day and age, you have to switch onto a guard and be able to hold your own. You cannot be a legit defender if you can't do that. And I do think Rudy is the exception because he's so foundational as an anchor, right? Like he's such an elite anchor where automatically if he's on your defense, you're going to have a top level defense just because he's back there. And I do think that's part of a generation of dudes who do not like getting their shot blocked. So they don't even take the shot half the time when they're there. We're seeing this with Wemby. Wemby can't be properly understood because people do not take the shot. They don't even attempt it. So I do feel like that, like you can't go too far back with them.
Well, we value stats so much, right? Like we're thinking about blocks and we're thinking about rebounds and we're thinking about steals.
That's the thing that bothers Draymond.
The new coach of the Grizzlies, Thomas Isalo, in his post, he compared Draymond to Paolo Maldini, who was a longtime Italian national team defensive forward, right? He would blow things up before they happen. I compared Victor Wembanyama to Deion Sanders, right? Deion, I mean, he could have had 20 interceptions, but they just didn't throw to him. And that's kind of like Victor Wembanyama. Whereas with Draymond, he's blowing up actions in ways that you don't even notice because it's just, it's positioning. He's in the right place every single time. And if he's not, he's barked at someone else to get him there. I mean, I'll never forget the change that we saw, like just from a leadership perspective defensively, that he's able to enact in other players. I mean, Andrew Wiggins as a point of attack defender got to a totally different level. And I would argue, and I want you to back me up here and tell me if I'm wrong, but the Andrew Wiggins for, Jimmy Butler trade probably doesn't happen if they don't feel super comfortable with Moses Moody being out there with Draymond behind him, right?
I actually think that's a secondary benefit. To be honest, I don't think they knew this. He wasn't.
Oh, you think it was a surprise? All right.
No, he wasn't. Like Moses' big thing is lateral movement, but the one thing that's happening with Jimmy is they're just more aggressive, and Moses is the point of attack. It's like, all right, you get out there and you just hound the ball, right? Make it hard to get around, and then we'll handle on the back end. I think they've kind of found the sweet spot. People don't know this. That's what happened with Clay. Clay wasn't a great defender, Mark Jackson was like, bro, you are blowing every rotation. Just hound the ball, right? Just hound the ball,
Yeah.
and we'll handle what happens behind you. That, to me, that's why people like Draymond and KG can be underrated, because when they do their job the best, it means nothing happened, right? That's really like
Exactly.
70% of their job is stopping things from happening. Draymond will just stand in the spot and okay, now that roll man is dead. Now you don't see anything because the roll man never gets the ball, right? Because Draymond has left his man and just stood in the spot to kill the play and force you into your second action, right? And to me, that's where Draymond separates himself amongst anybody. It's not that he's just stopping a guy. He used to do this all the time to me. You would have loved it because he'd be in the locker room saying, I'm going to do this in the first quarter to set up what I'm going to do in the fourth quarter. And he'd say he's going to do it, and then it'll happen. And that's what he's doing out there. He is literally directing people where they want him to go. And he's doing it with like Luka. He's not like doing it against like Dennis Schroeder. He's like, I know what Luka wants to do, and I'm going to take that away and I'm going to make him go over there. Right. Like he's doing that like almost like not like intentionally, but as the game plan. He's like, all right, I know this is what they want. So here's the things I'm going to do to mess that up and make them go a completely different direction as a game plan, not on a play, but systemically. That to me is just another level. And I think KG, those are the comps to me. It's not going to be the Dwight Howards who just stand at the rim and swat everything. It's going to be essentially the point guard. He's the middle linebacker of the defense. He's Ray Lewis, right? It's not how we typically think about defense.
Draymond going to be a basketball coach when he's done, you think? He checks so many of the boxes, and including the way, okay, that's fair, but including the way that you talked about how he described the stuff. I just thought it was very approachable. I could see, I don't know, man, with the NIL stuff and the way boosters work, you don't think he'd take over at Michigan State?
TV is too much money, man. Come on. What's Stephen A just get?
You're right. Yeah, I don't know.
What's Barkley
okay. You're right. It's not Dave DuFour money, unfortunately, unfortunately, I'm not making the Charles Barkley money. Before we go, I want to ask you, all right, if not Draymond for Defensive Player of the Year, because I mean, I just read this pretty good piece that lays out all the reasons why Draymond could be. Who would you choose as Defensive Player of the Year?
Man, this is tough, dude. Mostly because so many of, like, normally we just go, who are the best teams defensively?
Right.
And all those teams, they don't have like a guy. They got a lot of guys. Oklahoma City is the best defense in the league, right? Can you say it's Chet? Of course, Chet is a major part of that. But also it's Lou Dort and Cason Wallace, right? And like how they operate schematically. A part of me wants to go with Evan Mobley, but I'm not like, is he having that kind of year defensively? Like, it's tough to find these kind of like singular defensive forces. And I think that's why Draymond is in the mix. Because if you look around the league, it's some great team defenses, largely inspired by how he plays defense, right? Like that, just the impetus he's created for people to focus on defense. But it's really difficult because normally we can just go to one of the top teams and like, who's anchoring that defense? But these teams are so thorough defensively, like from, 1 through 7, 1 through 8. Like, it's hard to single it out. So I want to say like a Chet, but I mean, Chet missed a lot of time. So it's going to be tough.
He missed too many times. Yeah,
he missed too many times. Like, Amen Thompson's incredible. Are we really about to... You know
I know.
What I'm saying? Like,
it's a tough award because as soon as Wemby went down, right, the clarity that we had on the award went away. I think Jaren Jackson, if Jaren hadn't gotten hurt, I think Jaren's probably the front runner right now. My guess is as good as yours, but I think Draymond, he probably should have won it a couple of years ago. It wouldn't surprise me if he winds up with another one this year.
Here's one that I feel like maybe, to me, like, it's going to be tough. Draymond is such a singular force. You're going to have a hard time finding somebody who has that kind of like isolated impact. But I wonder, Jrue Holiday.
No way. Not this year, for sure.
We don't get career awards anymore. Like, come on, man.
Maybe, it's a lifetime achievement award for Jrue Holiday.
Can we get like a Monsters Ball award for Jrue Holiday? Like,
we're not doing that. All right, that's going to do it for the show, folks. Thanks to Marcus Thompson for staying up late in Tampa to do the show. Thanks for Jovan to sticking around post-game to hang out. I'm Dave DuFour. This has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.